You notice it first in the pause before you answer a message. Your thumb hovers over the screen longer than it needs to. You are aware, just slightly, that you are weighing the tone, imagining the reaction, even if the text is banal. Most of the time you don't think about it. The reflection is automatic, almost invisible. It is just another second in the day, but it feels small and oddly charged. You think you are just being careful, but something deeper nudges your attention, a quiet thread you've barely acknowledged. At the coffee shop, the way someone glances at you and looks away leaves a flicker in your chest. You catch it without naming it. You tell yourself it is nothing, just politeness or habit, but your body remembers the hesitation. There is a subtle expectation embedded in your glance back, a tiny test that you do not articulate. And yet, you notice it only because your awareness slips in, brief and fleeting, like noticing the light move across a wall in the late afternoon. You catch yourself smoothing your shirt, adjusting a seat, clearing your throat, all in the presence of others. The gestures are meant to be unnoticed, yet they are precise. You realize that much of what you do when you think no one is watching is measured against imagined eyes. Not judgment exactly, more like a careful calibration. Most people do this, you tell yourself, quietly, because the world asks it without speaking. Sometimes, in a meeting or a crowded room, you feel a shadow of anticipation. Someone smiles, pauses, or gestures, and you react before knowing why. It is instinctive. You might think you are simply polite or attentive, but you feel a subtle tension, a ripple that passes under your skin. The moment is familiar, ordinary, yet it lingers in the way you remember a song half heard in a passing car. You glance at a text again. You almost did not notice that your heartbeat shifted slightly when the words appeared. There is a rhythm to this vigilance, quiet and automatic. You do not name it, but the body does. You tell yourself it is a practical awareness, an adult skill, yet you sense there is a silent choreography you were never invited to learn. And for a fleeting instant, it is almost uncomfortable to admit. Almost. Later, you notice a colleague hesitating before speaking. You sense the micro-expression of caution and adjust your tone in response, without realizing it. Your empathy is mechanical in this way, yet deeply personal. You start to wonder if the reflex is yours, or if it is the echo of all the times you have performed the same subtle calculations. The line between noticing and participating blurs. In the car, waiting at a light, someone cuts in front of you. Your initial reaction is a flash of irritation. You suppress it, shift gears, and settle into the new rhythm. But there is a quiet observation beneath it all. You felt it, you noticed, and yet you did not act. It is the pattern that quietly shapes your days, unnoticed by the world, intimately known to you. At home, the fridge light casts a small glow. You catch your reflection in its glass and notice the tension in your shoulders. You adjust, smooth, breathe. It is private, and yet not entirely. You recognize the gestures of emotional vigilance in yourself as in everyone else. The realization is subtle, like a shadow passing over familiar furniture. You almost do not name it. You remember a dinner conversation where you laughed slightly late, just after the rest of the table. The delay was tiny, barely perceptible, but you notice it now. You wonder if it was instinct, courtesy, or something more subtle. There is a rhythm to these small recalibrations, patterns that quietly shape your life before you even recognize them. You sense the world is full of these unseen negotiations, and you are participating in them, effortlessly, without permission. At night, in bed, you replay the day in fragments. The messages, the smiles, the adjustments. You notice yourself checking, anticipating, rehearsing responses silently. You wonder if this is universal, or if you are particularly attuned. It is not a problem, not a skill, just a state. And there is a faint awareness that this vigilance, this attention, is part of something wider, something shared, but unspoken. Sometimes you catch your own reflection in a store window and pause slightly. There is a flicker of recognition, as if you were seeing not only yourself but the small patterns in the spaces between your gestures. You notice the way your hand lingers on the handle, the slight tilt of your head, the micro-adjustments you make in anticipation of imagined observation. It is almost imperceptible, but the body remembers. You notice how easy it is to slip into this observation unnoticed, how each small calibration folds into the next without conscious decision. A laugh, a glance, a pause in conversation, they all thread together in a tapestry you are only half aware of. And yet, you carry it as effortlessly as breathing, until a moment arrives that makes you pause, even slightly. There is a quiet sense that vigilance is like a low hum that never stops. Even when you are alone, it traces the edges of thought. You imagine it stretching backward, through memories, through moments you barely remember noticing at the time. You wonder if the person you were yesterday was already attuned to the same patterns, just without knowing the word for it. You walk down a quiet street. Someone passes, their pace slightly off from yours. You adjust without thinking, a small echo in your steps. The reflex is familiar, almost imperceptible, yet it draws your focus inward. You wonder why your body notices before your mind. Is it caution, empathy, habit, or all of it at once? You do not answer. You simply notice. During a phone call, you find yourself softening your tone, just enough to match the other person's inflection. You pause to ask if it matters, and then realize that it is irrelevant to your awareness. The adaptation is automatic, invisible, unnoticed by the caller, but fully present in your perception. You catch yourself imagining how the same interaction would feel if you were unobserved. There is a subtle friction there, a sense that your awareness operates in parallel with your intentions. You remember sending a text late at night and rereading it twice, wondering if the words conveyed exactly what you felt, or what you wanted them to feel. You realize that this self-monitoring is not entirely conscious, but it is consistent. A pattern emerges when you reflect on it, one that feels familiar in countless interactions. It is not control, nor anxiety exactly, but a quiet threading of attention through your daily life. At the grocery store, you notice a cashier's expression while bagging your items. You adjust your tone unconsciously, soften a word, shift your posture. You wonder if they notice, or if this is just a shadow exercise, a habit of your mind. The thought that this pattern exists everywhere, in every transaction, every glance, every interaction, quietly reshaping behavior, makes you pause. You do not judge it, only observe it. There is a moment in the car where a song comes on that you love, and yet your mind drifts back to the interactions of the day. You realize that the vigilance follows you, threading itself between joy and routine. It is not intrusive, only present, subtle, like the echo of a room long after you leave it. You notice it as you notice your own heartbeat, or the faint tension in your neck, something intimately yours and yet strangely shared. You reflect on a compliment received, and the slight hesitation before responding. There is a soft recalibration, a small inner negotiation about gratitude, humility, and social expectation. It is not deliberate, but precise. You think about how often this occurs, in small invisible ways, in gestures, in phrasing, in timing. You feel a flicker of awareness that perhaps everyone carries similar threads, yet most move through life without naming them. Walking through your apartment, you catch your reflection in a mirror. The tension of the day lingers in posture, in stance, in gaze. You adjust, smooth, breathe. And you notice, quietly, that the same calibration exists in nearly every space you occupy. It is not a choice, not a rule, just a rhythm embedded in human behavior. You consider for a moment that perhaps the reflection is only ever partial, that the mind sees the surface while the body remembers the depth. You notice the subtle dialogue of observation you conduct with yourself throughout the day. Every gesture, every pause, every inflection is accounted for before it fully registers. The awareness is soft, almost imperceptible, yet persistent. It is like a low hum beneath the surface of thought, shaping perception without ever demanding attention. You recall the thumb hovering over a message earlier in the day. The pause that seemed meaningless at the time now feels layered, connected to everything else you have observed. You recognize it as part of the same invisible choreography, the same subtle negotiation of self and others. You see it in the pauses, the shifts, the unspoken adjustments, in the way human attention quietly structures each moment. In quiet moments, you notice the depth of this habitual vigilance. A small sigh, a glance, a movement of the hand, all calibrated, all observed, all remembered. It is intimate and shared, though no one speaks of it. You imagine the pattern stretching outward, beyond yourself, threading through lives around you, unnoticed yet constant. You notice how easy it is to trace these rhythms backward, to see their echoes in old conversations, in gestures long since forgotten. It feels like a subtle inheritance, passed not in words but in the pauses and glances that ripple quietly across time. The awareness itself becomes a landscape, with peaks and valleys you navigate without even naming them. And then you lie back, noticing the tension release in waves. The awareness of vigilance persists, soft but present, like a low current beneath the surface. You consider how the body holds these small recalibrations without instruction, without explanation, without ever needing acknowledgement. In the stillness, you catch the faint echo again, that small pause before an action. It is familiar, ordinary, and yet you see it now with a new intimacy. Not a lesson, not a problem, only a quiet recognition. The thread runs through your day, through countless small gestures, unnoticed until this very moment. You notice it. And that noticing, simple and unspoken, is enough.